Hi, Yellowbird friends. It's Miss Flory, and I'm here to sew with you today. We have in your kit some pieces that we're going to give to you to make this cute little fish stuffy. Now, those of you who know me know that I really enjoy sewing. It's a really relaxing thing to do, but it's challenging at the same time. So I hope you enjoy this activity. I'm going to walk you through the steps, although at any time, please stop the video if you feel like it's going too fast. Go back and rewatch the things. And I do encourage you to watch the video all the way through before you start your projects, just so you know what you need to be doing, what you're working for. But we are going to be making this cute little stuffy. Before we start, I'm going to point out a couple of things, especially for our younger artists. This is something that we call applique, where basically we're using thread to attach another piece of material. Now, if for some reason this is too much of a challenge for some of the young artists, you don't have to do the applique part where you're stitching on this patch. You can simply, if you have hot glue at home, and here I'll get a sample out for you that I'm going to bring back later, you can actually just hot glue on the patch and the eye, just so that you know. But today with my demonstration, I'm going to show you how to applique this little patch on. Another thing that I want you to know is that for younger artists, you may not be able to do this sort of embroidery of a fin and the little details on the tail. You can skip that part, or maybe if you have a parent who wants to give it a try, they can do the embroidery part for you. So we're going to teach you how to do this little fish, and he can be a little toy for you to play with, or maybe you can give it as a gift, or maybe even fill it with, when you put in your stuffing, you put perfume in it or something like that, and make it something sweet to put in with your clothes in your drawers. All kinds of fun things you can do. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So in your kit, you are going to have a shape of a fish, which looks like this. And you are going to get a needle, and you're going to have a pin. And these things are going to help you with your sewing. You're also going to get 2 buttons. And you're going to have 3 pieces of thread. 2 are going to be on the short side. This is going to be for your eyes, to sew on your eyes. And maybe there'll be some left over for the embroidery if you want to give that a try. And then you're going to have a very long piece of thread. And we're going to give you extra. And if for some reason, especially for the young kids, this is a lot of thread. So moms, dads, and maybe some of the older kids, if this is too long for you to sew with, you can fold it in half and cut it right here in the middle, so you have 2 shorter pieces that you can fold in half and thread. And then you can sew your fish with a little bit shorter thread, tie a knot, and then rethread your needle and then keep going again. But if you're a little bit older and you have a bigger arm span, you might be able to handle this large piece of thread. So those are the things that are going to come in with your kit. Okay, I'm going to set these aside. Now I have pre-made another little fish. It's just a tiny version of the big fish, and I'm going to go ahead and have an up-close shot here so you can watch me work. All right, guys? Okay. We are going to go ahead and teach you how to do a thread your needle. Now, I do have a video on the YouTube channel of how to thread a 2 friends knot, so I'm not going to go into it with a lot of detail today. So I'm just simply going to go and do it. If you want to have more depth video, go to the how to tie a 2 friends knot. But this is how we tie a 2 friends knot quickly. You have your needle. It has an eye. What I tell my friends is go ahead and get yourself familiar with the needle. Make sure that you understand how pokey it is so you're not afraid of using it. And once you feel comfortable using it, you just go ahead and push your thread through the eye, and you're going to fold your thread in half so that you basically have what we call here at Studio a needle necklace. And then you're going to have your 2 friends here at the end, and you're going to tie your 2 friends knot. it. Okay, you're going to slip it through the hole. Make sure you tie your knot towards the end of the thread a little bit, so you're not tying it in the middle. Okay, and there you go. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to applique the little eye patch on. And for this step, you want to actually split your project into 2 pieces. So you're going to have this little patch, and what I tell the kids here at the studio is you always start from the underside because you want your knots to be underneath and hidden. You don't want them to show. So what you're going to do is you're going to start from the underside and you're going to poke through. My needle is actually a little dull because I'm using a different kind of needle. You're going to poke through, and then you're going to poke through so that you're actually poking at both the fish part and the eye patch part. So you've got them both on here, and then you're going to go out just a little bit, and you're going to poke down the other side. And like I said, I have actually a different kind of needle today, so it's a little stiffer for me. Yours will be a lot easier. And then you're going to have this sort of like little dash. Then you're going to come up next to it, do it again. Go. And then you're going to go down the other side. And you're going to do this all the way around. You're going to go and stitch all the way around. Now I'm not going to do that for you because I want to save you guys some time. Once you've gone all the way around, what you're going to do is you're going to actually, before you do that, you probably will have some left over. So you're going to actually poke up through the middle of the eye patch, right in the middle, with your thread still on. And then you're going to take your button. Now, some of the buttons have 2 holes, some of them have 4 holes. But either way, you're going to slide your button in like that. Okay. And then you're going to pull it out. And then you're going to poke it through another hole. You're going to try to center your button into the middle of your patch like that. Then you're going to poke down. And then you're going to look for your holes again, and then you're going to poke up again. Sometimes it takes a little bit of kind of jiggling your needle around before you find the best spot. There we go. Just takes patience, and that's another thing I love about sewing, is it really makes you slow down, makes you focus on your work, and kind of all your troubles disappear when you sew. There you go. And so you've sewn on your eye. Once your eye is sewn on, you're going to flip it over to the side that has all the messy stuff on it. And then you're going to cut your thread off. So make sure you have scissors for this project. Any old scissors will do, because your only thing you're cutting is thread. So when you cut, you want to cut close to your needle. Don't cut down here because you won't have any thread left to tie your knot. You're going to cut up close to your needle. Put your needle in a safe place. Make sure your tiny brothers and sisters aren't around here when you're doing your project so they don't get poked. And then you're going to do what I call a crisscross or a shoe tie knot. You're going to crisscross your threads like this. And then you're going to tie just like you're tying a shoe. And you're going to tie it down, and then one more time, crisscross through the loop and tie like a shoe. So it's a double knot for those of you who are older. You're going to have some extra thread. You can just use your scissors to cut the extra thread off, but make sure you don't cut the knot. So then you will have, and like I said, I didn't complete it. It's probably not my best work, but that's okay. It's just for purposes of demonstration. You've got, you're going to have this all sewn on. Now, if you want to do the embroidery, if you have enough thread left over, you can do the embroidery part. And I'll show you what I did for the embroidery very quickly. And like I said, this might be something that either a mom or dad can help the very young ones with, or that an older child could easily do. So you're going to thread your needle, do your 2 friends knot, a loop, and then they go through the loop. Okay, and then you're gonna again work from you're gonna start from the underside. So what I did was I basically drew like a triangle, if you can kind of see that. Did a little triangle. So I'll show you how I did my triangle. I kind of imagine where I want the triangle to be. So I start here. The top of my triangle is here. And then I'm going to go over to the side, kind of a diagonal line away, like that. And then I'm actually going to come back to where I started my first knot. I'm going to actually come back and poke up from the underside. And then I'm going to go to this corner over here. I'm going to poke down. So now I have kind of like a V shape. And then I'm going to actually come over to this little side over here. The first time that I poke down, I'm going to poke up. And then I'm going to poke down at that corner. So I'm basically making a little fin, a little triangle fin. Now if you want to add the little things at the tail, you can do that, or if you want to just add a few more little pieces right here in the middle, you can do that too. So maybe you add a little line here, like a little line. If you want to do the tail, should have a little bit more, you're going to get a little more string than I gave you. You can just simply go over to the side with that more string that I'm going to give you, and then you're going to poke up from the bottom, and then you're going to do the same thing, but you're just going to go long stitches like that. So that's how I did the long ones, and then I came down to the next spot, and then I just kept going up and down until I got about 4 little stripes there. Okay, there. Okay, so that's basically how to do the fish. You can kind of move on from there. Once I have that all done, now I didn't do it on this fish. I actually didn't do the little fins on this fish. You're going to be sewing your little fish together. So I'm going to show you, this is what we call a running stitch. And I'm going to show you a running stitch, and then I'm also going to show you the stitch that I used here, which is a whip stitch. So I'm going to show you both with this sample fish that I had from earlier. I'm just going to cut off some of these pieces here. Okay, get myself some more thread. Thread my needle, make a needle necklace. And then my 2 friends knot a loop, and then the 2 friends go through the loop and out. And I like to cut off the ends, the extra stuff. Now to get started with your sewing of your fish, you're going to be taking both fish. So you're going to patch the eye on, do your fin or your tail if you'd like. And then you're going to do the other side too. And I didn't do the other side for right now because we don't have time in this video to do the whole thing. But you're going to have both sides complete. Once you have both sides complete, you're going to get your pin, which is the one with a little ball on it, the little pin. And you are going to pin the 2 fish together because this will help you hold them together. It actually holds it together while your hands are busy sewing. So what I tell my friends is if you just kind of pinch your fish or your project like that, you just kind of pinch it, then you poke through that pinch, and you pull it out, it holds the 2 together so that your project is being held together while you're sewing. So to start sewing my project, what I suggest is you imagine where you want your stuffing to go in. Now here's an example where I stopped. I actually wanted my stuffing to go into the belly of the fish. I was going to imagine that this is the belly of the fish down here. So I started on one side, I actually started right here, and then I stitched all the way around to this side right over here. okay, to this side right there, and that leaves me enough room to stuff, which I'll show you how to do in a little bit. So you'll have to do that. You'll have to imagine, where do you want to start? Where's the stuffing going to go in? Once you've decided that, then you're going to do something called hiding or sandwiching a knot. You're going to lift your two fish up just very slightly, and then you're going to poke your needle at the edge of one of the sides of where you're going to put your stuffing in. So you're going to poke your needle up and watch what happens. If you poke your needle up and you pull your needle up, the little knot gets sandwiched right in between the two sides so that you don't see that knot on your project, and it looks a little neater. Now, I said before, this is a running stitch. I'm going to show you both on this little project here. I'm not going to worry too much that they are matched up, but you'll make sure that yours are really matched up and that they fit together really well. So for a running stitch, you simply go up and then you go down. And then you go up a little bit, just kind of skip over just a little bit and go up. And then you skip over a little bit like that, and then you go down. Okay, and then you're going to skip over a little bit, go up, and then you're going to go skip over a little bit and then go down. Now that is what we call a running stitch. I'm sorry. So you can decide if you like that look. But if you like this look, which is really kind of neat, I'm going to show you how to do that. This is actually what we call a whip stitch. And instead of going up and down and up and down, you're actually going to be going in one direction every time. So I'm always going to be going down. And for those of you who have a young child, what we do here at the studio is you can take a pencil and make little dots. And these little dots kind of help the younger children know where to poke. You can do this with a running stitch or with a whip stitch. So you kind of draw these little dots on the fish, and then you tell your young child, and we usually do the whip stitch with our younger children because that way they don't get confused going up and down. They always just poke the dot. So they just poke the dot and come out. And then they look for the next dot, and then they poke the dot and come out. So you look for the next dot, poke the dot, and then come out. So you're always going around like that. Poke the next dot, and then come out. So you've got this really neat sort of pattern. Now, if for some reason you accidentally, let's say you were doing, you wanted to do a whip stitch, but accidentally, instead of poking the dot, you poked up from the back, and you accidentally did a running stitch. Oh no, I accidentally did a running stitch. Or maybe you're doing a running stitch and you accidentally do a whip stitch. This felt is super easy to pull back out. So if you make a mistake, you just pull your needle back through. It takes a little bit of pulling. Most older children can do this. The young ones might need a little help. But you can just take it and pull it back through and correct your mistake. Takes a little bit of work. Like I said, sewing is all about patience, perseverance, problem solving, thinking ahead, planning ahead. I think more kids should try sewing because it teaches you a lot of life skills that are valuable no matter how old you are. So if you make a mistake, you can always go back and fix it. All right, so we're going to stop with this right here, and I'm going to move back over to this fish, which I almost have complete. So I have gone around my fish with a running stitch, and now I'm going to show you how to stuff it. So you're going to have a ball of this fluffy stuffing, and what I tell my friends here at the studio is to take the ball of stuffing and just make it sort of about the size of a cotton ball or so. Maybe this is a little bit bigger than a cotton ball. If it's too big, sometimes it's hard to get it into the little opening that you've created. So about the size of a cotton ball is nice to work with. And then you're going to simply open that little area of the fish and you're going to poke it in with your finger. I do suggest, though, that you start at the tail and the ends of the fish and work your way towards the middle. So I'm going to poke. I'm actually going to use my pencil. Sometimes a pencil helps you get into those little nooks and crannies, but little fingers have a little easier time. So you're going to keep stuffing your fish with little balls of fluff until you get it to the firmness that you like. So it's going to be like a little pillow. I'm going to stuff mine just a little bit more. Now this is a little bit bigger than what I'm recommending you, but I have done this a lot of times, so I know how to kind of work the stuffing in there easily. So once your fish is as firm as you want it to be, there's something that you can do. You can actually take your pin. Remember, before you stuff your fish, you should take your pin out and set it aside. Don't lose it. So once you've stuffed your fish, you'll have this kind of opening here. What I find sometimes is easier is if you kind of press it closed, pin that little opening closed, if you can. So you're going to pin it closed, and it actually helps you sew a little bit better. So once you can either continue your whip stitch if you're doing a whip stitch, or if you're doing a running stitch, just keep doing your running stitch all the way across and sew up the belly of your fish up and down. And once you get to the very end and you have sewn your fish all the way across, you can do one of two things. You can either, well, actually, what I recommend is to make sure that your fish stays closed and doesn't come apart, is I actually suggest you do something called an anchor stitch. So once I've come up on my last time, I'm actually going to go down right close to it. I'm going to go down again, close to where I came out, and then I'm going to go back up one more time, kind of in that same area. So I'm going to go up and down just a few times, and that actually basically that's what an anchor stitch is. It anchors your project so that it doesn't come loose. And then you can take your pin out, and then you can, remember, clip your needle close to the needle, clip your thread close to the needle, and then I'm going to untwirl that. I'm going to crisscross. I'm going to tie a little knot down here just to be sure, and then close to the knot. Don't cut the knot, but close to the knot. Now, also, those of you, like I said, if you don't want to do the embroidery around the eye, you can instead hot glue the eye on, which is what I did with this little guy. You can hot glue the patch on, you can hot glue the eyes on. So for the younger children, if the sewing of the button is too much for them, you can do it this way. But eventually you will have a little fish. If you have more felt at home, you can always go to the store and pick up more felt, and then you can make a school of fish. They're fun to give away as presents, or just maybe even if you had some catnip, you can even fill it full of catnip and give it to a present for your cat. So I hope you enjoyed this project. I enjoyed doing it with you, and I hope to see you at the studio again very soon. We'll see you. Bye-bye.